Welcome to Freemasonry. I'm Melvin Stein, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of the state of California.
My name is Rafael Aguilar. I am a Mason.
My name is Dave Taylor.
Dick Pierce, I'm a past master.
My name is Aaron.
John Bernazzo's past senior steward.
My name is Jay Monroe. I was made a Master Mason approximately 15 years ago.
My name is Jeffrey Dillon Stiles. I'm a full-time student. I attend UCLA.
My name is Tino Struckmann, and I was born in Denmark and live in LA.
I'm Bob Beeson, past master.
Cindy Beeson.
My name is Murray Cook, and I've been a Mason for 52 years.
I'm John Cooper. I'm Grand Secretary of the Masonic Grand Lodge of California. Well, yes, I was an officer in my Masonic Lodge in Los Angeles. I served as master of my lodge in 1969. Became a Mason at 1964 at age 21.
I'm Adam Morrill. I've been a Mason for a little over 5 years now.
I'm Nicole Morrill, Adam's wife, and this is Hannah Morrill, our daughter.
My name is Michael Wamback, and I have served as master of the lodge, so I'd be a past master.
My primary motivation for getting into Masonry was to seek further spiritual knowledge.
I mean, I too had read so many things online, so I figured the best way to really get to the bottom of what Freemasonry is to join, so I did.
My friend Mike, I met him outside of the lodge, and he told me a lot about it. He was very enthusiastic about Freemasonry, and we talked more and more about it, and he was also a Canadian and a hockey fan, and we got to be friends, and he told me about the lodge, and then just one time, the time came up for me to be initiated as an entered apprentice Mason.
One of the reasons that really drew me to Masonry after many years in the military is because after leaving the military, you have a sense of missing the camaraderie, the friendship.
I was going through the MBA program at Pepperdine University, and I was back for Christmas one year, back at my father's house, and I noticed he had a Masonic ring, and I asked him about it, and he said, you know, I think it'd be right up your alley. You ought to look into it.
I was introduced to Freemasonry by my wife, who was a Job's daughter.
Well, I became a Mason to pay back a debt to my grandfather, and he was a Mason's Mason.
Young men of today are more inquisitive.
I looked into what Masonry was, and I knew I wanted to be a Mason before I walked the door of the lodge.
My family's been involved in Masonry for a couple hundred years. We have some papers on some of my ancestral grandfathers going back where they used to travel the world and had it signed all over the place. But I was raised in it through the youth groups, met my wife there, and this has been a long time standing family tradition.
I chose to become a Mason because I saw a lot of just people in my neighborhood were Masons. They had a very positive role on my life. Just a couple of my school teachers, and they were always doing good things for the community.
I've always been interested in various philosophical schools or spiritual traditions, and so Masonry has always had this aura that has surrounded it, this mystique, this sort of clique of people that have always been philosophically inclined.
To be in the company of distinguished gentlemen. Basically, that's how it turned out. But I started out because my Uncle Homer was a Mason and a past master from his lodge in Monroe, Michigan.
I used to study a lot of history, especially England, Elizabethan through late Victorian ages. Freemasonry played a very prominent role in that society at that time.
I joined Freemasonry just because I thought that it would make me a more responsible and better man.
I actually decided to be a Mason after coming to the Grand Lodge building here. I saw the symbols up on the wall in the lobby and did some research like anyone my age. I hopped online and looked up websites, read a few books, and found that Masonic principles really paralleled my own principles.
We joined Masonry for a fraternal benefit.
Curiosity.
So what?
Yeah, just being curious. Yeah.
My grandfather was a Freemason. My great-grandfather. Actually, my father became a Mason while I was master of my lodge. He'd not been a Mason before.
I think Freemasonry has taught me the importance of being responsible, of really taking control of my life and kind of leading it where I want to go.
My transformation from before I was a Mason until now has to be about having been able to start giving something back to the community.
It taught me responsibility. It taught me being a comrade. It taught me about probably understanding someone else's position much better than just my own.
And it's also just introduced me to a whole another set of people that I wouldn't necessarily be talking to.
I think Masonry forces you to look at deeper principles in life.
It taught me a lesson I wish I had learned at 16, and I had to be 55 before I learned it. That ultimately, in order for anything to be worth something, it has to be earned truly.
I would say fellowship. I got a chance to meet some very unique people that I probably wouldn't even imagine ever meeting, where the doors just open, the hospitality is there.
Yeah, I think he's more concerned with making something meaningful out of his life and putting meaning, you know, for example, he's trying to change careers right now and become a firefighter and really trying to affect and help people.
Giving me a deeper understanding of the human psyche.
Before becoming a Mason, I wanted to make a difference, but I think Masonry kind of gave me the shove or the internal fortitude to make the tough choices.
One of the biggest changes I noticed was his ability to speak in public. Before that, even though he's a very articulate man, he was always very shy, and because of Masonry, he had the opportunity to do lectures and had to stand up in front of everybody, and he has become quite good at it.
You have this impression that Masons are older, distinguished men sitting in circles talking, and it's not the case.
Masonry accepts men of all races, colors, creeds, religions, backgrounds.
From electricians to laborers.
There are carpenters, construction workers, engineers, and I find that throughout all Masonry. You have quite a wide range of people that can literally just sit down and enjoy the fellowship.
We have a very diverse lodge, which I really like. We have guys from all sorts of ethnic and cultural and religious background. We have everybody. We have a really good mix in our lodge.
Masons are by definition good, honorable, law-abiding men.
Brotherhood. They reach out and help each other. I had an experience where a man died in my arms, and I came to the lodge the next day and they all came to my aid. I've never felt that before.
Brotherhood is, if Murray needs something, I'd give it to him, just as if I need something, I'm sure he'd do the same for me.
They were men of high principle, men who had a deep interest in their community and their families. They were the kind of men that most young men want to be like when they grow up. Some were blue-collar workers, some were salesmen, some worked in government agencies, but mostly they spread across the social and socioeconomic spectrum, if you will.
In the Masonic Lodge, there's really no hierarchy in terms of one person being the authority and all wisdom and everything. So it's really brother teaching brother becomes a very big part of the Masonic experience.
Our mission is to make good men better.
Masonry does make good men better.
I think that it takes good men and shows them lessons about how to work with other groups of men.
And I find myself a better person, a better man since I became a Mason.
You have to be someone of quality to begin with who wants to make a change in their life, and I think Masonry just assists them in making those positive life changes that maybe they didn't think they could do before or didn't think they needed to do before.
But I think Freemasonry is primarily intended to make good men better.
I do believe that Masonry has made him a better man. He was a perfectly fine man before, but he's, like I said, he's much more conscientious and maybe just willing to make more thoughtful of things.
It's an individual journey, but you're there with other individuals.
Well, one of the things that I have found intriguing over the years about Freemasonry is that from the very beginning, it was based on democratic principles. The idea was that you learned to govern yourself, and you did govern yourself. So the earliest 4 lodges that formed the Grand Lodge in 1717 met together, developed their own rules and regulations, And from that has grown the concept in Freemasonry of self-government. We actually were sort of pioneers. In those days, most organizations were not self-governing. Freemasonry spread that idea, and from that some of the ideals of the American Revolution came. And that's not just Masonic lore, that's valid historians that have studied that. Revolutionary Brotherhood, for example, that is an excellent book that tells about how this model of what happened in Masonic lodges spilled over into the ideas as to how you would govern a country. So this is where this happens here. We gather every September or October. This year we'll be here in the last weekend in September. There'll be about 2,000 delegates here in this room, visitors and others, representing our lodges, and we enact our legislation for the next year here. If you look on the outside of the building, you'll see what I think is a very interesting entablature. It shows a world being pulled by men from two different sides, and it's a wonderful symbol of Freemasonry pulling together that which is pulling apart.
Freemasonry originated during the building of the great cathedrals in Europe, and Masons banded together in guilds in order to basically protect their secret.
In the 17th and 18th century, it attracted men who were not working stonemasons, who found in Freemasonry something that they couldn't find anywhere else. And it became what modern-day Freemasonry is through that experience.
Because they had this sort of a shelter, I think it became a safe haven for free thinkers. I also think that's where a lot of the stuff about Masonry being a secret comes from.
There is no big secret.
Oh, you know, it's the nonsense that people kind of write about on the internet that, you know, whether Freemasonry is opposed to the church, that, you know, Freemasonry is you know, evil.
Do Masons have secrets? Yes, they do have secrets, but they're internal to what happens inside the lodge room, and it's not a evil, malicious thing. It's simply how we might know one another. I liken it to as being a very poorly kept secret, as we wear our jewelry and we have our lodges are identified with signs outside, and a lot of lodges have notices in the paper when they're meeting, and really we have actually a lot of public open meetings where we invite the public in and we encourage the public to be around us. We do child ID programs that are absolutely for the public.
We are a society that has secrets amongst ourselves. We're not a secret society because everybody knows we exist and everybody can research what we do.
No, it's not a secret organization, because if it was a secret organization, you wouldn't know about it.
The only things that I'd heard about prior to being a Mason were just kind of general conspiracy theory type things, but in doing my research I figured, well, there's to me two polar opposites and there's probably reality somewhere in the middle.
Freemasonry meets in public buildings. We're proud to wear the square and compass. We're proud to tell men that we're Masons. We do have certain means of private identification that we've inherited from the Middle Ages, which are known amongst our members alone and are taught to our members. Nowadays, when you go into a store to cash a check, you present your photo ID, and that's how people know who you are. In the Middle Ages, that didn't happen. You had to memorize certain passwords and modes and means of identifying yourself as a Mason when you travel.
I was always taught that the secrecy of Masonry is not in the ritual, but it's in the charge that you have for one brother to another. And I really try and hit on that aspect rather than on the ritual.
I believe that the purpose of ritual is one to give a foundation, a basis upon which we can establish our learning. But the ritual deals with symbols. They simply teach us as a symbol of what actions we should take in life. But as an example, the compass is used to circumscribe our desires and keep our passions within due bounds toward all mankind. The square, to square our actions. All of these symbols, including in a lodge where we have a rough ashlar, a rough piece of stone, and a perfect ashlar, a polished piece of stone. The symbol. We begin Masonry as a rough stone, but hopefully as we improve, not just by the degrees, but by understanding their meaning and the meaning of the ritual, we become more perfect in our way of life.
And when you look at the actual ritual in Freemasonry, you see a lot of the enlightenment in the ritual itself. Its teaching aspect is being predominantly one of stimulating curiosity or imagination symbolically.
I like the ritual of it. I like the formality of it. I like the sense of old tradition brought into a modern time. I like it. There's not much ritual anymore and symbolism in this society that we live in.
But a lot of it has to do, one, with tradition. It also has to do with reinforcing the values that you're supposed to practice as a Mason.
Ritual is probably 50% of the lodge activity. The other should be, and is, social events for the families.
The lodge does emphasize that family is first and foremost the most important thing, and that we should never, ever as Freemasons put anything having to do with the lodge ahead of the welfare of our family.
We actually really make it a family affair.
When I was installed as master this year, it was open to all family and friends, and my wife was there, Nicole was there, and Hannah was there.
The lodge tries to support at least one family event where it's usually an annual picnic.
Krista became very active with the lodge, and certainly in my year as master, she did so much to help support me and encourage me. And I say a lot of the times it was the two of us here at 1 o'clock in the morning setting up for the dinner the next day.
The kids and I ended up being the chairman of the board and committee for the picnic.
There's definitely more young couples in Masonry now. A warden in our lodge just got married last year, and he's about the same age as us. And
family members often get involved in the charities that the lodge supports.
I think that all Masons take pride in what they do for mankind and their community. We have scholarships for those that are graduating from high school for college. There is no requirement that you be Masonically related. These scholarships are available to any such student. We also have the Child ID program, assisting law enforcement and parents to identify their children should they be lost. We, in Masonry in general, for example, provide over $2 million a day to the community.
I'm very much representative of the youth of my generation within Freemasonry. And so I went to Masonic Week in Washington, D.C. in February. And it was interesting to see young professional men such as myself from all over the world, but primarily here in the country, kind of saying the same things that I am. And we're doing it sort of unique to each other.
My friends, first they think, okay, what is a Mason? And then I tell them, do some research on the internet. And of course they find all the bad stuff, so we play 21 questions about whether or not I worship the devil. And once we get past that, it's like, oh, well, you guys really do a lot of stuff. I didn't know about the hospitals and these different community services and child ID systems and things like that. They're really just fascinated by it. And then some of them want more information about Masonry.
I think a young man, or a man of any age, should consider becoming a Mason because Masonry is designed on a one-on-one basis through our degrees to improve his conduct toward his family, his country, and mankind.
I would say to him that joining Freemasonry is unlike anything that he can ever experience.
Freemasonry is an organization, a worldwide organization of close friends.
Masonry is just a very long journey because you get to learn about yourself, you get to learn about other people, and you also get a new way of looking at society.
My experience has shown that guys who have thought about it a long time and researched it are the ones that stick around.
For the sincere at heart, Freemasonry offers to man the possibility of a kind of betterment and a kind of focused attention towards moral development that can't be found anywhere else.
Freemasonry is here to develop leaders, so that they should consider themselves as leaders the moment they walk through the door. I think if they approach it with some enthusiasm and some leadership and an open mind, and with a little bit of participation, the lodge becomes a wonderful experience for them.
And that's why every year for the last 7 years, I have reported to our annual communication that we have more entered apprentices than we ever had the year before coming into the fraternity.
I think that everyone will find something positive in it that's for them.
California's primary means of information about our Grand Lodge is our public website, as well as with our Freemason magazine. But it's a way of conveying an image of what Freemasonry is. We have statements on there about what Masons do. Our vision statement is on there. There's a way to contact us if you want to know more about Masonry. Freemasonry still does not go out and solicit members, and I think that's an important concept. But we've changed the paradigm to say that we want people to know what Freemasonry is. And if you're a man who would make a good Mason, we want to talk to you about what Freemasonry means and what it could mean in your life.
Freemasonry is the world's oldest men's fraternity. Its purpose, to make good men better, for family, flag, country, and all mankind. If you want to become a Mason, just ask one.